My mother has always believed no man would ever want me. She said it with a laugh. A crystal glass of champagne shimmered in her hand as she stood in front of everyone at my engagement party. My fiancé's parents, my coworkers, my best friend, even the pastor who would marry us. The string lights above the garden patio glowed warm and golden, but I felt cold all the way down to my bones. To be honest, she continued, smiling too wide, I used to tell Hannah she'd better get comfortable being alone. No man wants a woman who thinks she's smarter than him. Laughter, nervous, scattered laughter. I stood there in my white dress, my engagement ring catching the light, my future in front of me, and my past slicing me open in public. My name is Hannah Brooks. I'm 32 years old, and all I have ever wanted more than the perfect wedding, more than the dream house, was peace. I wanted to feel chosen, protected, loved. Across the patio, my fiancé, Daniel Carter, froze mid-step. His smile dropped as he looked from my mother to me. I felt the sting behind my eyes but forced my lips to curve upward. I would not cry, not here. Oh, relax, my mom added quickly, waving her hand like she'd spilled a minor secret. It's just a joke. Look at her now. She finally found someone. Finally. Like Daniel was a miracle. Like I was a burden. Like I had been lucky someone picked me. If you've ever been embarrassed by someone who was supposed to protect you, you know the kind of silence that fills your chest. The kind that screams without making a sound. But here's what she didn't know. 3 weeks before that toast, I found something in her bedroom that changed everything. And I was waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the truth to come out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Growing up in Maplewood, Illinois, my mother, Karen Brooks, was known for two things, her charm and her comparisons. She compared everything, cars, houses, other people's daughters. And me. Look at Emily, she'd say about my younger sister. She's softer, men like soft. Emily was the golden child, blonde, bubbly, agreeable. I was the one who asked questions, the one who got scholarships, the one who read books instead of practicing smiles in mirrors. My father used to say, Hannah's strong, she'll be fine. He passed away when I was 19. After that, it was just my mom's voice in the house. When I met Daniel 2 years ago at a real estate conference in Chicago, I didn't tell her at first. I wanted something that felt like mine. Daniel loved that I challenged him. He'd say, "You make me better." No one had ever said that to me before. When he proposed last spring under the oak tree in Grant Park, I cried so hard I couldn't speak. It felt like a new chapter, like maybe my story wasn't the one my mom had written for me. But she had a way of rewriting everything. When Daniel and I announced our engagement, she hugged him tight and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "Take care of her. She's not the easiest." That's how she framed me, difficult, hard to love. The engagement party was her idea. "Let me host it," she insisted. "I want to celebrate properly." I should have known better. Back on the patio, Daniel walked to my side and slipped his hand into mine. I felt his thumb brush over my knuckles, grounding me. My mom lifted her glass again. "But really, Daniel, thank you. We were starting to worry." The words were sugar-coated knives. I saw Emily watching me from the dessert table, her expression unreadable. She never defended me. She never joined in either. She just floated in the middle. I caught my reflection in the sliding glass door behind my mother. My smile looked painted on. Fake. And then something inside me shifted. Because the humiliation wasn't new. But the secret I was carrying was. 3 weeks before this party, I had stopped by my mom's house unannounced. Daniel and I needed a copy of my birth certificate for the marriage license, and she insisted she kept it in her safe. She wasn't home. The spare key was still under the ceramic frog by the porch. Some habits never change. Inside her bedroom, I opened the closet where she kept the small gray lockbox. It wasn't hard to find the code. My birthday. I found the birth certificate, but underneath it, folded neatly in a manila envelope, was something else. Bank statements. Not hers. Mine. Accounts I didn't recognize. Large withdrawals over the past 2 years from a savings account my father had opened for me before he died. An account I didn't even know still existed. My hands shook as I flipped through the papers. Transfers, checks signed in shaky handwriting that looked like mine. But weren't. My mom had access. My mom had been managing family finances after my dad passed. And according to those statements, she had been draining my account slowly. Thousands of dollars. For what? I remember sitting on her bedroom floor, the carpet scratching my knees, my heart pounding in my ears. All those years she said I was ungrateful, independent, distant. Meanwhile, she was stealing from me. And here she was tonight, telling the world no man would want me. The irony tasted bitter. Daniel leaned down slightly. "Are you okay?" he whispered. I looked at my mother raising her glass again, soaking in the attention. I swallowed. "Oh, I'm okay," I said softly. Because what she didn't know was that I had already made copies of those statements. What she didn't know was that I had spoken to a lawyer. And what she definitely didn't know was that this toast wasn't going to be the only surprise tonight. I tightened my grip on Daniel's hand and stepped forward. "Mom," I said sweetly, "since we're sharing old stories, maybe I should share one too." Her smile faltered. And that was the moment the party stopped feeling like her stage. It started feeling like mine. You could hear the fountain trickling in the corner of the patio. That's how quiet it got when I said those words. My mom's smile stayed frozen, but her eyes sharpened. She wasn't used to losing control of a room. "Oh," she said lightly, "what story is that, sweetheart?" Sweetheart. She only used that word when she felt threatened. I looked around at the guests, Daniel's parents, my coworkers, Emily pretending to study the cupcakes, our neighbors leaning in. My heart was pounding so loud I thought everyone could hear it. "I just think it's funny," I said calmly, "how you've always told people no man would want me. But somehow, you never mention how Dad set up a savings account for me before he passed." Her hand tightened around her champagne glass. That account was supposed to help with my future, my wedding, my life. Daniel's grip on my hand shifted. He turned to look at me fully now. My mother let out a short laugh. "Hannah, this isn't the time." "Oh, I think it is," I interrupted gently. "You see, my whole life I was taught to shrink, to not make scenes, to swallow the hurt and keep the peace. But peace built on lies is just silence. And I found out recently," I continued, "that over the last 2 years, thousands of dollars were withdrawn from that account." The air thickened. My mom's voice dropped. "You're confused." "Am I?" I reached into my clutch and pulled out folded copies of the statements. I didn't hold them up dramatically. I just let them rest in my hand like quiet proof. "I went to the bank after I found these in your safe," I said. "The signatures don't match mine. The transfers went into an account connected to your name." Gasps, a sharp inhale from someone near the bar. Daniel's mother whispered something to her husband. My mom's cheeks flushed, but not from embarrassment, from anger. "How dare you," she said under her breath, stepping closer to me. "You're humiliating me at your own party." I almost laughed at that. Humiliating her. "Mom," I said softly, "you humiliated me first." Her eyes flickered. For a split second, I saw something there. Not guilt, not shame. Fear. "Those funds were family money," she snapped louder now. "After your father died, I had to manage things. You have no idea what I sacrificed." "Then why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She didn't answer. Because there was no answer that made sense. Emily finally stepped forward. "Hannah, maybe this isn't the place." "Did you know?" I turned to her. Her lips parted, closed, parted again. Silence can be louder than confession. Daniel stepped beside me, his voice calm but firm. "Karen, is this true?" My mom's eyes darted between us. "It's being blown out of proportion," she said quickly. "I moved some money temporarily. I was going to put it back. 2 years ago, I asked. The room felt smaller, the string lights suddenly too bright. You've always thought you were better than us, she hissed quietly so only I could hear. Always acting independent. Maybe this will teach you that you still need me. There it was. It was never about money. It was about control. About keeping me small enough to manage. My throat tightened, but not with tears, with clarity. All I ever wanted, I said aloud, my voice steady, was a mother who believed in me. The words hung there, heavier than the accusations. For a moment, no one moved. Then Daniel squeezed my hand. We're leaving, he said gently. What? My mom's head snapped up. Over this misunderstanding. This isn't a misunderstanding, Daniel replied. This is trust. His parents were already gathering their coats. The party dissolved in awkward murmurs and sideways glances. Guests avoided eye contact as they slipped out the gate. The music had stopped at some point. I hadn't even noticed. Emily stood frozen by the table. Did you know? I asked her again, softer now. Tears filled her eyes. She said it was a loan, that you didn't need it, that you were doing better than us. The words hit harder than the toast. So she had justified it. I was doing better, so it didn't matter. My mother looked around at the emptying patio, like a queen watching her kingdom fall apart. You're destroying this family, she said to me. No. I was exposing it. Daniel walked me toward the gate, but before I stepped out, I turned back. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I said evenly. I don't want drama, I want the money returned, and I want honesty. Her face went pale. You wouldn't, she whispered. I held her gaze. For once, I said, I would. We left her standing there alone under the fading lights. The drive home was quiet. Daniel didn't ask questions at first. He just drove, one hand on the wheel, the other holding mine over the center console. Finally, he said, Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was embarrassed, I admitted. It made me feel stupid, like I should have known. He shook his head. You trusted your mother. Trust shouldn't feel like stupidity. When we got home, I kicked off my heels and sat on the edge of the bed. The night replayed in flashes, the laughter, the toast, the look in her eyes. I'm sorry, I whispered. For what? Daniel asked. For bringing this mess into our life. He knelt in front of me, taking both my hands. You are not a mess, he said firmly. Your mother's choices are not your identity. That was the high. The steady, warm reassurance. But then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. It was a photo. A screenshot of a draft email addressed to Daniel. Subject line, the truth about Hannah. My stomach dropped. Underneath, a message read. If you don't drop this nonsense about the money, I will send this. No signature. But I knew. My mother wasn't done. And whatever she planned to tell Daniel, she believed it could break us. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding all over again. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about stolen money. It was about a secret she thought could destroy my engagement. And I had no idea what she was planning to say. The screenshot felt heavier than the bank statements. I stared at my phone while Daniel watched my face change. What is it? He asked quietly. I turned the screen toward him. He read the subject line, the truth about Hannah, and frowned. What truth? That's what I'd like to know, I whispered. For a second, fear tried to creep in. Not because I thought I had some hidden scandal, but because I knew my mother was capable of rewriting reality. She had been doing it my whole life. She's bluffing, Daniel said. But I wasn't so sure. You don't threaten someone unless you think you have something. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing under those string lights, smiling while cutting me down. I heard her voice from childhood too loud, too opinionated, too much. By morning, I had made a decision. If there was a truth she wanted to expose, I would drag it into the light first. I drove to Maplewood alone. Daniel offered to come, but I needed to do this myself. The house looked the same, white shutters, trimmed hedges, the ceramic frog still guarding the spare key. For a moment, I saw my younger self sitting on those porch steps after school, waiting for my dad to come home, waiting for someone to see me. I knocked instead of using the key. My mom opened the door slowly. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from losing control. "What do you want?" she asked. "Answers." She stepped aside without a word. Inside, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and tension. "I assume you got my message," she said coolly, walking toward the kitchen. "Yes," I replied. "What exactly is the truth about Hannah?" She poured herself coffee, but didn't offer me any. "You've always painted yourself as the victim," she said. "So strong, so independent, but Daniel deserves to know who you really are." My jaw tightened. "And who is that?" She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You sabotaged your last relationship." I blinked. "What?" "Michael," she said. "You pushed him away. You embarrassed him at that dinner with his parents." "You're difficult, Hannah. Men don't stay because of how you treat them." For a second, I just stared at her. "Michael." That relationship had ended 4 years ago. He had cheated on me. I had found texts on his phone. I had confronted him calmly, asked for honesty, and when he gaslit me, I walked away. "You're rewriting history," I said slowly. "I'm protecting Daniel," she shot back, "before he finds out the hard way." The realization settled in my chest like a stone. She didn't have proof. She had perspective. Twisted perspective. "You were never in that relationship," I said. "You don't know what happened." "I know you," she snapped. "You think you're better than everyone, you challenge men, you correct them. No man wants that long term." There it was again. Her fear. Not that I was unlovable, but that I was uncontrollable. I stepped closer to her. "You're not trying to protect Daniel," I said quietly. "You're trying to protect your version of me." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "If you send that email," I continued, "I will respond, with bank records, with timelines, with the truth." Her eyes flickered. "You wouldn't ruin your wedding over this," she said. "I wouldn't ruin my life pretending this is normal," I replied. For a long moment, we stood there in silence. Then she said something that knocked the air out of me. "You think you're so innocent. Do you know why your father set up that account in your name?" I felt my heart skip. "Because he believed in me." She laughed softly. "No, because he felt guilty." "Guilty for what?" She hesitated, just long enough for dread to creep in. "For not telling you the truth." The room felt smaller. "What truth?" I whispered. She walked to a drawer and pulled out a folder I had never seen before. Inside was a letter. Old, yellowed at the edges. Addressed to me. In my father's handwriting. "He was going to tell you when you turned 25, she said, "but he died before he could." My hands trembled as I took the letter. "You weren't planned," she said flatly. "He didn't want another child. He wanted to focus on his career. I convinced him to keep you." The words hit like a slap. "That's not." "He struggled bonding with you as a baby," she continued. "He thought you were too intense, too much." The kitchen spun. My father had been my safe place, the one who said I was strong, the one who told me I'd be fine. "You're lying," I said, but my voice wavered. "Read it," she said. I unfolded the letter slowly. "Hannah, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to explain something in person. I never expected to become a father again. I was scared. I was selfish. But from the moment you wrapped your tiny fingers around mine, I knew I had been wrong." My eyes blurred with tears. "You changed me. You made me braver. This account is my promise that you will always have something of your own, something no one can take from you. You are not too much. You are exactly enough." I lowered the paper, breathing unevenly. My mom's expression shifted. That's not what he told me, she said quietly. I looked up at her. For the first time, I saw it. Not jealousy of me. Jealousy of him. He had grown, he had softened, and she hadn't. He didn't feel guilty about me, I said. He was grateful. Her shoulders stiffened. You always idolized him, she muttered. Because he saw me. The kitchen felt like a battlefield after the smoke cleared. You stole that money, I said steadily, and now you're trying to steal his memory. She didn't deny it this time. Instead, she said something softer. You're leaving me. It wasn't an accusation. It was a fear. I'm getting married, I replied. That's not abandonment. It is when you stop needing me. There it was. The core. She didn't want a daughter. She wanted dependency. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my purse. I don't need you to be small so you can feel big, I said. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. If you send that email, I added, I will press charges. I turned toward the door. Hannah, she called out. I paused but didn't turn around. You'll regret cutting me off. I thought about the little girl on the porch steps, the woman on the patio under string lights, the letter in my purse. I regret staying silent, I said. And then I walked out. But when I reached my car, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an unknown number. It was Daniel. We need to talk. Call me as soon as you see this. My stomach dropped. Because attached to his message was a forwarded email. Subject line. The truth about Hannah. She had sent it anyway. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. She sent it. I stared at the forwarded email Daniel had just sent me. The subject line looked heavier than it had the night before. Final, irreversible. I sat in my car outside my mother's house, my heart pounding in my ears. I tapped it open. The message wasn't long. Daniel, before you marry Hannah, you deserve to know who she really is. She has a pattern of pushing men away once they see her true personality. She humiliates people when she feels insecure. She did it with Michael. She will do it to you. She also tends to exaggerate and twist events to make herself look like the victim. Please be careful. Karen. That was it. No evidence, no screenshots, just opinion dressed up as warning. But words can still bruise. I immediately called Daniel. He answered on the first ring. Hey, he said calmly. Did you read it? I asked. Yeah. I waited for his tone to change, for doubt, for distance. Instead, he sighed. She also called me, he added. My stomach flipped. What? She tried to explain her side, about the money, about Michael, about you. I felt something fragile inside me brace for impact. And, I whispered. And I told her I'm marrying you, not her version of you. My chest loosened, just enough for air to slip in. She thinks I'll leave, I admitted quietly. She's projecting, he replied. Hannah, do you know what I see when we argue? When you challenge me, I see a partner, not an enemy. Tears spilled down my face before I could stop them. All my life, I had been told I was too much. And here was the man I loved telling me I was exactly right. I went to see her, I confessed. I figured. She showed me a letter from Dad. There was a pause. What letter? I told him everything. About the guilt she claimed. About the truth in my father's words. About how she twisted even his memory to control me. When I finished, Daniel was quiet. Then he said something I didn't expect. She's afraid. I let out a soft, broken laugh. She doesn't look afraid. She is, he said. You're building a life she can't manage. The drive home felt different than the drive there. Lighter, but sad. Grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes it comes from clarity. When I walked into our apartment, Daniel was waiting near the window. The afternoon sun fell across his shoulders. He didn't say anything. He just pulled me into his chest. And I finally cried. Not the tight, controlled tears from the patio, not the quiet ones from the car, but the kind that release years of swallowed words. I wanted her to be proud of me, I whispered into his shirt. I know. I kept thinking if I achieved enough, if I softened enough, if I proved enough. He pulled back just enough to look at me. You don't earn love by shrinking. That sentence felt like a door opening. Later that evening, I did something that scared me more than confronting her. I blocked her number. I blocked her on social media. I emailed my lawyer and told him to move forward with a formal repayment request. And then, I sat on the edge of my bed with my father's letter in my hands. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. For the first time in my life, I believed it. A week passed. The house in Maplewood was quiet, according to Emily. My mother hadn't called her friends, hadn't defended herself publicly. She was silent. Then, 3 days before our wedding, I received a wire transfer. Every dollar. With a short note in the memo line. For your future. No apology. But no fight either. Emily called that night. She's not okay, she said softly. I know, I replied. Are you? I looked around at the half-packed boxes in our living room, the wedding dress hanging in the closet, Daniel in the kitchen testing out playlists for the reception. Yes, I said honestly, I think I finally am. On our wedding day, I felt nervous, but not small. When I walked down the aisle in the small botanical garden downtown, I scanned the seats instinctively. Her chair was empty. It hurt, but it didn't break me. As Daniel took my hands, he leaned in and whispered, I choose you, all of you. And this time, there was no echo of doubt behind the words. At the reception, Daniel's mother gave a toast. She talked about partnership, about strength, about how lucky her son was. No comparisons. No backhanded jokes. Just warmth. For a moment, I wondered if my mother would ever understand that love isn't control. But then I realized something important. It wasn't my job to teach her. Healing isn't always reconciliation. Sometimes it's boundaries. Sometimes it's distance. Sometimes it's choosing yourself. A month later, I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to make sure I didn't carry her voice into my marriage. I learned that children of controlling parents often confuse love with approval. I learned that standing up for yourself can feel like betrayal when you've been trained to stay silent. And I learned that the bravest thing I did wasn't exposing the bank statements. It was refusing to let her define me anymore. Daniel and I moved to a new city 6 months later. Fresh start. Fresh air. Occasionally, Emily sends updates. My mother asks about me sometimes, she says, but she never calls. And I don't reach out. Not out of anger, but out of peace. If you've ever had someone toast your insecurities in public, if you've ever been told you were too much, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your dignity, what would you have done in my situation? Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? Share your story in the comments.